Hey there, SolarLune here, and here's another Gearend Devlog video. Gearend is a 2D Metroid-like I'm making. It's being made using the BDX game engine, which is an open source 3D game engine integrated with Blender for an easy time in making games. Yeah, so this is another game devlog video. This is going to be showing that I don't have very much of it, but basically a new area that's the water zone. This is going to be a water research facility, water purification facility rather. I have an actual name for it. I can't think of what it is right now. But yeah, it's going to be kind of heavy on water. So that's what I was working on for the past couple of days. And these little lines below epsilon is just for debugging his platforming. I forgot to disable them. But yeah, so the water is controlled. It's kind of complex, not too simple, and it still is not quite perfect. So there's still stuff I can improve upon. I'm not sure. I might just leave it like this because I think it's looking pretty good. It's looking pretty solid. Okay, so the way this works is in Blender. Let me see if I can. Yeah, in Blender. Oh, you can't see it, but in Blender, there's basically water blocks. They're just planes, so to speak, cubes, invisible cubes with planes on the front. That's represents where the water is, and their job is just to designate like this is a water area. So when you step into it, gravity slows down, or rather just gets less effective. You move slower, and when you're in water, you also animate slower. The epsilon animates slower, of course. Yeah, I never checked to see how. Yeah, well, yeah, of course, I forgot. But yeah, I need to make projectiles, I suppose, work slowly as well. You can still like fire at the same rate and stuff like that, which I guess it makes sense. Like it's not. I don't think I want it to be where firing is difficult too. I have to do some thinking on that, but at least I need to slow down projectiles. But anyway, when you step into water, it has an effect on your movement. That's what the zones themselves are. But it also applies a shader on top of the water planes that basically shows the water as you see here. It's kind of a complex shader. I mean, it's just kind of, it does stuff. And it's a little more than, it's not really complex, it's just kind of a lot of stuff that I just kind of tweaked until I got to this stage. But the idea, the central idea is, I added to BDX a couple of weeks ago the ability to have objects be not rendered. So, and before that, I added the ability for cameras to render to texture. So basically, the water blocks are not being rendered by a certain camera, and then they use that camera to render a texture of the game world. And then it uses that texture to basically show what's behind the water blocks, but apply a little bit of a wave effect. And so that's what you're seeing, basically. That's why it looks wavy. It's not really a strong effect. I might up it a little bit to make it a little more obvious. It's not really, it's not really like super hard, but I think it looks pretty good. But yeah, it applies a kind of a wavy effect, and it also gets a little darker the further down you go. So down here, it's, I guess, normal, and up here, it gets brighter. So it feels like there's depth to the water too. I like that effect. I didn't even really like intend on adding it. It just kind of turned out pretty good. Okay, so yeah, that works pretty well. I also added this little boat that you can push along, and it has a little bit of buoyance, just kind of basic, float in the water quality. And when you're on it, of course, you can walk around and jump on it and stuff like that. Pretty simple stuff. I spent like a day or two like trying to make it rigid body so that it could like tip off of edges and stuff like that. And I think that would be a cool idea. It wouldn't be a bad idea, but it just was proving more trouble than it was worth. It didn't really feel that fun or reliable. So I just thought, well, I'm just kind of wasting time. It's not really that helpful. So I just decided to go with a basic dynamic, block that you can just kind of push around and drop into the water. And there you go. One of the original ideas I had was to be able to like propel yourself through the water by using a weapon or something like that, or maybe shooting and the kickback pushing the platform and you along, backwards. So you could go like that, something like that, or something to that effect. I might do something like that still, maybe, but for the most part, it's just, you know, it's just not really worth it. It's not really worth the time and effort involved to implement that, especially considering I have a pretty good amount of ideas, I think, for the game so far. Or like, you know, just for water. You know, you have these platforms that can be dropped into the water, so that's platforming. They can be pushed along, and the water itself has lower gravity, so you can make much larger jumps, even if you move a lot slower. So that kind of stuff, you know, can definitely come into play and be used for platforming and for you know, playing the game and running around and puzzles and stuff like that. So there's a lot of possibilities. Yeah, so there's a pretty good amount of content just in this one little screen where with the water blocks or water area. Yeah, so hopefully I'll be able to make more using that. I didn't do much else because I was spending a lot of time on just getting the water right, because I knew that I would need to use water and have water as a central theme in this zone. One thing I added were these blocks, or not blocks, these vines, which you basically can't get through unless you have a sword. So it's just basically a kind of key. Anyway, that's some stuff I added. I was debating on whether I should show the vine or not, and I'm like, oh well, you know, that I don't want to give away any puzzle solutions, but it's like, that's a pretty basic solution. That's nothing really outstanding or out of the ordinary. As for other things, like I said, I didn't get to do much. I optimized the game a ton by merging static geometry together. So before, it was like, for example, let me see if I can actually pull Blender up. Yeah, you basically see like each of these platforms, these pillars rather, are individual objects. Or you can see, you know, you could see that they are individual objects. Which is fine, you know, because these pillars are kind of big, but with the other scenes, the terrain is like, you know, maybe this size, this little square. So I'd make a square here and 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 here, and I'd have a lot of different squares. Well, when you have so many different physics-enabled objects, raycasting takes a long time, which is understandable because it has to basically check to see when you cast a ray, what objects is it colliding with. So anyway, just by merging together objects that are or merging together physically enabled objects and deleting the originals, so that you just have one big object with a big physics mesh, or a few big objects with big physics meshes. That's really helpful. That really sped things up. So basically, this should run a lot better on a lot of people's computers, and even this video itself should be 60 FPS, no frame drops really, or lagging or anything like that, which is nice. Okay. One other thing that is unrelated to this at hand is this program I found called Tag Spaces, which is this here. Tag Spaces is a thing that allows you to make, you know, just it allows you to write content, or files, notes, whatever. And it also allows you to tag stuff, so you can like tag it and say, oh, this is, you know, my game development idea, or this is, you know, some other thing, or whatever the case is, which is all well and good. But it also, the reason I like it is because you can also make files that are markdown files. So you can like just type like you would on GitHub or whatever, you know, here's a list of, you know, items, and then you save it and you reload it or open it again. There it is. So that's really cool, because that makes it a lot easier to write things like to-do lists and things of that nature, because, you know, Markdown is pretty simple, you know, language, pretty easy to read and easy to write. So that's nice to be able to have that so easy to implement and get, you know, up and running and stuff like that. So that's cool. It's a cool program. I'm kind of growing to like it a little bit more. And the cool thing about Markdown is that while this Markdown doesn't support everything that like the GitHub flavored Markdown does, you can just write HTML and that'll be parsed as well. So if you want to like insert a local image, you can just write, you know, img, you know, source equal blah 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 blah, and then, you know, that's it. So that's cool. That's really cool. I like it. So I just wanted to point that out in case anyone was looking for some method of writing game design documents or keeping track of their notes or resources for games and other projects and stuff like that. Oh, and one last thing. If anyone has any questions about Gearend or BDX or whatever, feel free to comment on it. And yeah. All right. Thank you very much for watching. See ya.